is. Thank you, Mr. John Grant.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Fellow Toastmasters, when was it that you were introduced to Toastmasters? And I want to take you back to that specific date and time when you were first went to your first meeting. Okay, so put this in your mind right here, right now, and really see, hear, and feel what you were experiencing at that time. Now, for me, it was when I was 17 years old. It was 1984. That takes you back a ways. I've earned my gray hair. And my dad and my stepmother, I was living with them for the summer right after I graduated high school, and we were living in Seattle, Washington. My stepmother, Millie, was taking college courses. She was, at that time in her life, in her 50s, and she wanted to finish a degree, and she was having challenges presenting in classes. So they signed up for Toastmasters. I was staying there. Hey, John, come on with us to Toastmasters. What? What is Toastmasters? Okay, so I was dragged along to my first Toastmasters meeting, and when I walked in, everyone seemed to me to be in their mid-50s or older. So that was I was a little put off by that. Then, when I was engaged in the meeting, this is the phrase I remember, and perhaps you do too. Tell him what you're going to tell him, and then tell him what you told him. And now, many years later, being a Toastmasters for the last 5 years, I have heard this phrase repeated several times in different clubs all over this area. So for me, this first exposure, I was 17. No one could tell me what to do when I was 17. I was going to college, I was going to play basketball, and I was going to be an environmental engineer. And my focus was that, not Toastmasters at the time. Well, it took quite a long time for my next exposure to Toastmasters. My wife and I started a direct sales business with Arbonne International as a health and wellness company. And we went to one of our first conventions with our upline, Joey Wilson and Brenda. Now this convention was in Arizona. It was called Pure Oasis. Arbonne is known for pure products made naturally. So our GPS took us to this place in Arizona, and it said, "You have arrived." Remember GPS back in 2009? Well, we had arrived at a piece of cactus. There was no building anywhere. GPS has improved incredibly. We went to this Pure Oasis, we got there, and we heard Michael Burnoff speak for the very first time in our lives. And his style of speech and his language he used was so impactful that when we came home, we started following him on the internet and wondering, how can we get to his speeches again? Well, he offered courses. The first one was called Call to Action. And this is a 6-day teleseminar. You dial in 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. and basic premise is that you will get more done in 6 days than you have in the last 6 years of your life. And he was right. He helped us get organized. He helped us gain confidence. he helped us build momentum. And that was the next teleseminar we took with him, Igniting Momentum. Have you ever ignited momentum in your life? And you just feel the surge of energy, the surge of action, the surge of growth. And you really reach a point where it's just the world is wide open and everything seems to be going your way. And I love that about being in momentum. Well, it was 2009, then 2011. 2011 was when we took a course of his called Human Interactive Technology. Now, this is where he opens the curtains back and explains to you how he uses neuro-linguistic programming to talk directly to your subconscious mind. And this is what makes his talk so fascinating. He uses story looping, he uses embedded commands, he uses all kinds of this language to really open up a channel to your subconscious mind and allow you to move things around in there if you want. So this was a long course, 5-day course, and at the end we had to give a presentation. Now I remember this being incredibly nerve-wracking, and the people, actually when I finished my talk, I got a lot of feedback. So it's very much like Toastmasters. Now first Michael spoke, and he said that I had, in my speech, covered about 17 of the skills he talked about. So I felt very good about that. However, he noticed how nervous I was. And the other people also told me my eyeballs were bouncing back and forth. And this was a challenge. So Michael at that time said, I highly recommend to you, John, that you start going to Toastmasters. So my friend Joey Wilson, brother from another mother, he was already at a Toastmasters club. And I went there, signed up for 6 months. I gave my icebreaker in 2011, about the first month of being a Toastmaster, and I had an incredible experience giving my icebreaker. I felt very relaxed. I talked about something I was familiar with, my mom, being my superhero, taking 6 kids away from an abusive environment, and really starting a new life for us on Catalina Island. Something I love to talk about. Well, 6 months came and went very fast. I did not go all that often. I really was not committed to Toastmasters at this time. And I got busy putting together our commercial office space. So 2012 came, 2013. I completed my bachelor's degree in 2013. I started a consulting business to help other business owners buy their own office space or build a building, I was having a lot of fun with that. I've been in the commercial real estate industry for about 30 years. And so, I allowed life to get in the way of my personal development growth. How many of you have allowed this to happen in your lives? Yes. This happens very naturally if we allow it to. But if we schedule and we commit to personal development, we start seeing that we can get in momentum much quicker. We can get into action much quicker. So having that high confidence and having that ability to be an effective leader and an effective communicator was the reason I returned to Toastmasters. December 2013, my mentor, Joey Wilson, said, hey, I'm at a new club. It's Fridays at 7 a.m. Friday, when? Yeah, 7 a.m. That means I had to get up at 5 a.m. and get ready to get there by 6:45. That's a habit that I formed at that Friday club that's still serving my health and my sanity today. So Twin Cities Business Leaders was the club I really committed to giving my 10 speeches at. And I started delivering speeches. It took about 1.5 years for me to complete that 10th speech. But when I completed it, I had a standing ovation, and the impact to me at that time that Toastmasters delivered, it made me want to give back. Have any of you had an experience in your life like that where something impacted you at your core and you said, I'm going to give back to this organization in any way possible? And that's what we did. We sponsored a club at our medical and wellness office. In August of 2015, Optimal Speakers was chartered. And I'll tell you something about chartering a club. It grows you like nothing else in Toastmasters, because you have to gather 17 people that have never been to Toastmasters. That was a key challenge. I remember Esther was our district director at that time. And I said, Esther, I want to charter a club at our office. Okay, John, 2 weeks, we're going to have a meeting and you're going to get started. I said, what? I'm not ready. I'm not ready to charter. Oh, it doesn't take much. You'll get it right away. Esther, just one thing after another. And of course, there's all kinds of help from the district when you charter a club. Lots of people come and help because it's all part of the Toastmasters journey. And if you haven't chartered a club, I recommend you think about doing that. So we chartered, and Optimal Speakers just grew and grew, and people really wound up committing. We developed 4 DTMs. There will be a 5th in July. My wife, when she finishes in 2020, she will be our 5th Distinguished Toastmaster. Now, this is what's interesting. Joey, my mentor, was our first DTM. I was the second DTM, and then my mentee or protege, Diane Piella, was the 3rd DTM. Ken Murray was the 4th DTM, and now Lori will be our 5th. Now, we've also had many qualified speakers come out of Optimal Speakers. In fact, we were recognized here at Speakers Bureau for our achievement there. And Randy was a qualified speaker, then Ed became a qualified speaker, then Ken became a qualified speaker, and I tried to be a qualified speaker. I'm still trying. Then Diane Piella became a qualified speaker. Joey Wilson became a qualified speaker. Ed Eddinghausen went on to be an accredited speaker. And our club just continues this synergy, this growth. And the relationships are what's key in Toastmasters, because as they grew, they drag us along. We want to grow in that way as well. We see them improving, we want to improve. And Toastmasters does that at a very rapid pace. Having optimal speakers wasn't enough. Diane wanted to get her DTM, so we chartered another club, the Next Level Toastmasters. And I can tell you, it is just as challenging to get a club started, get into momentum, get people committed, and then see that the club take off like Optimal Speakers has. Through the Toastmasters experiences, I have completed a marathon. It took 3 challenges again. The first time I heard Ed Eddinghausen speak, he brought in this huge wire frame of belt buckles. And I thought, what are those? It almost needed to be wheelbarrowed into the club. Once he got up on stage and started talking, I was blown away because it just seemed so natural for him to get up on stage and share an experience. And that really helps Toastmasters gain confidence. When they see someone else do it, you start believing you can do it as well. Ed started talking about all these, well, first, his marathon he started and was unable to complete because he didn't train his knees correctly. And he ended up walking back to the starting line and seeing all these people run by him. And he said that that was one of those things in his life that changed him to really commit to running. From then on, he became the world record holder for the most 100-mile runs in a year. 144 100-mile runs. If you want to learn something about mental toughness and physical strength, talk to Ed Eddinghausen. And I was so thankful that he challenged me to complete my first marathon. And when I started training, 6 months, I started just walking on a treadmill for 15 minutes at a time. I worked my way up to walk a 3K, a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon. There were times on the treadmill, I spent 4 hours on a treadmill because I wanted to get my miles in. That's commitment. That's the type of commitment I have with Toastmasters. What type of commitment do you have? When I finished that marathon, after 8 hours and 12 minutes and put this medal around my neck, I can tell you I was exhausted. After some speeches, I feel the same way. Exhausted. After some relationship conflicts, I can feel exhausted like a marathon. After some achievements, like my bachelor's degree, like my DTM, like my QS is going to be, it is something to just really reminisce about. On the 18th mile walking, I can tell you my feet were just hamburger meat, blisters. My knees hurt, my shins hurt. I didn't think I could finish. I sat down for maybe 5 minutes and just tried to gather my strength. And I thought back to my youth where, yeah, I hiked mountains. I hiked in the Sierras. I walked from Catalina Island, from Avalon to the backside, 10 miles one way, surfed all day and walked back. So because of those memories, I was able to get up and finish that marathon. What is it about Toastmasters that you reminisce about? I challenge you today to reach out to someone who has come into your club recently, or someone who has impacted your life in a very unique way, in a very powerful way. I challenge you, reach out to them in the next 2 days and tell them how much that matters. Madam Toastmaster.
I get the hugs. Excellent.
So it's right.
Well, fellow Toastmasters, we're going to have
Does
a
that help
round
the light?
robin now.
Did you see my little
Yay.
flips?
Mhm.
And I think I was smart.
Do you want me to
Boy,
give?
It's hard to talk that
Do you want me to give
long.
everybody? What do you guys want? Like a minute, one to 2 minutes. So I'll give Agrina a minute. Just
Yeah.
okay.
Well, fellow Toastmasters, I was not prepared today. I didn't have a pen, John, so I couldn't make myself notes. Might be a little bit scrambled in
That's
my
okay.
head.
It all helps.
But earlier you told me, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I maybe should not give the speech. It was excellent. You
Thank
didn't
you.
even get those little cards out. I know
Yeah.
you have in your pocket.
Yeah.
Excellent job, John. I loved how relatable it was. I could so relate to it because just like you, I love momentum and I know what you talk about. When I came the first time to Optimus, because I had no idea what you people did. I had no idea, but I liked you all. And so I came again,
Yeah.
and then again. And then I finally got it a little bit, and I was pulled by the momentum. So I could really, really relate to that. And your marathon story, well, we all know I can relate to that one. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I wish I could have made notes, suggestions for improvement. Sometimes I think the transitions got for me a little bit fuzzy. I cannot say exactly which one, but you might need to look at that. But I thought it was a fabulous speech, and 18 minutes is a long time, and it was great. Thank you so much for that speech.
Thank you.
Mr. Ron.
Okay.
Hey.
It's good to get different opinions.
John, I want to say that they say don't bring home to work with you, right? Or do something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't do the other vice versa, right? I'm gonna tell you why your speech resonated with me, and every time you speak, it resonates with me. But today in particular, I'm not having the best day. You could tell by my demeanor when I walk in here. It's a lot different. We have those ups and downs in life, and a lot of times the source of these negative feelings that I may have about myself are because I realize that I am lacking momentum in a particular area, or that I haven't committed as much as I could. And hearing you come up here and speaking about the power of applying yourself, in the instance of the marathon, you were channeling your youth. I ran my first half marathon last year in December. And it was like any other day. I ran out to go for a run, maybe 6-8 miles I thought I was going to do. It's a coincidence that day was one of the worst days I had had in a long time. I said, well, run's going to help it. And I just kept running. I never thought I was going to run a half marathon, but I just kept running because I needed something in my life to commit to feel that momentum, to feel like it was worth something, because I don't surround myself with people who empower me. That is something that is lacking in my life. And so when I come here and I hear you speak, John, that's why I stay in Toastmasters, because of you. Thank you, John.
It's a family.
Very moving. Hey, dog.
Somebody have to time me.
Miss Lori.
Okay. Will you time me?
Would you like to evaluate your husband?
Yeah. This could be scary.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm like, yeah, I'm straightforward. And this is on video. I'm in trouble.
Oh, boy.
You better stop that recording.
It'll help me.
No, that is good. So I actually have the advantage
I
of
have to do the
more.
light.
Yeah, let me know.
I was like, oh, I'm just trying to.
So first, I agree with you guys, and what's neat about John is, you guys didn't see him when he first started speaking, but he would shake, he would sweat, he would look so uncomfortable that I could watch, you know. And now I will say, you actually, one thing I noticed is you came up here and you really commanded the stage where, hey, I want to listen to you. And you kept that through the whole time, and that's really good. And that's huge growth for you. And you kept the eye contact, you didn't worry about notes, and I know that's been a struggle. So that's a huge, huge growth for you that you should acknowledge. One thing I did notice, you did tons better, but you did do some of this. It didn't look nervous, it just looked like you were trying to walk. So I would focus for you, really just stand here. If you got nowhere to go, stand there, because your hands were great. And then use the stage purposely, which you did some. And if you're not going to use the stage, which you do want to use more at that speakers bureau, then just stand here and just plant those feet like they can't move.
Okay.
That would be something. And the other thing I've noticed, and you've gotten better with it, the breath. I really think to challenge yourself, doing yoga breathing, doing some sort of breathing exercise, that's going to take away that breathing. I don't know if you guys notice it, but I'll notice it, and that would be huge for you.
Okay.
And truly, I think just keep practicing, and I would say more of the story on you, less on Ed, and expand that marathon story. Because it was beautiful, but it was more on Ed than on you, and I think that would have made it more powerful. But overall, the story, the organization, you brought us through, and I've been there from the beginning, you brought us through that story beautifully and got us to think, oh wow, you know, if he can keep coming back and expanding, then so can we. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
Perfect.